While they were walking, they saw a headless body walking towards them. Immediately they saw this, they threw their luggages and ran for their dear lives.
Vincent was a 24-year-old son of a widow. The only reason she was still alive because she had lost everything. Her son was her only consolation. After she lost her husband, his family came to her and took everything her husband had, leaving her homeless and broke. She had to struggle so she could fend for her child. She did all kinds of menial jobs, hawking, cleaning, farming, everything she could lay her hands on, as far as it comes with a pay. She succeeded in training her son up till university level, and when he was done, he was preparing for his youth service. He got his call up later and was set to go. On reaching the park, he saw some coppers inside the bus he was boarding, and when he asked them, he discovered they were sent to the same PPA. There were 4 boys and a girl. On their way to their PPA, the driver ran out of fuel. He excused them and rushed to get fuel. They were angry. Some of them were murmuring. He took about 30 minutes and came back with some fuel, and they continued the journey. Along the road, the female couple excused them to go and ease herself. She entered into the bush, and when they waited for us, she wasn't back. They started looking for her. They searched and searched but couldn't find her. Meanwhile, while they were searching, the driver saw a signpost written Agaba Forest, which is known to be a deadly forest. He rushed to the coppers and told them they needed to leave, that this was a deadly forest. They had a little argument, and some people suggested they waited behind and looked for her. So when they went in search of the missing girl, the driver brought out all their luggage and entered his vehicle and drove off. There were 5 coppers before one girl got missing, and they were left with 4 coppers. While they were inside the forest, one got bitten by a snake, and while they were looking for a solution to help him, the venom spread throughout his body and he died instantly. By this time, the remaining coppers were so scared and lost in the forest. They kept walking, trying to find their way, crying and arguing within themselves. They were hungry, tired and exhausted, roaming the deadly evil forest. While they were still moving, they saw a ghostly apparition. They screamed and started running. They ran as far as their legs could take them until they met with a hunter. They told him everything, and he decided to take them to the village their PPA was located. They still didn't know where the female copper was, and they were still sad about the loss of their male copper. They were posted to a place of terror, they thought to themselves. While the hunter led them to the village, Vincent asked him, "Please, sir, do you know anything about this village?" I'm just an hunter. I don't know much about this village," he replied. It was already getting late. They arrived at Pabio and were directed to the state coordinator's house. On reaching there, they greeted him and he asked one of his sons to take them to the copper's lodge. On getting there, Vincent sighted the house from a distance and asked, "Can a human being live here?" Scanning through the entire environment, the whole place looked so dirty and unkempt. "I doubt it," Xavier replied. "I can't sleep in this dirty place," Paul said. "You will just have to manage," the boy said. "I saw the students cleaning it in the morning. I don't know why the place still looks dirty and unkept," he added. "Please manage for tonight. We can sort it out in the morning." Xavier went to pee by the bush. While he was peeing, he felt something on his legs and screamed. Everyone ran to him and discovered it was just a harmless cockroach. They teased him for behaving like a girl. They entered into the room. Although the room was well swept and arranged, it was nothing like the dirty surrounding. It had a small mattress that could barely contain 3 people. The walls were dirty, and while Vincent looked closely at the wall, it had a mark on the wall that looked like a blood stain, and when he called the boy in charge to see it, the boy swore it was a red paint painted by the previous coppers. They dropped their luggage and tried to get comfortable. "We are hungry," they told the local's son. "I'm sorry, everywhere is closed till tomorrow." "But it's just 8 o'clock," he said. "Over here, everywhere stops selling by 7. They were all shocked to hear this, and more shocked to know that after all the stress they went through today, they would sleep without food or water. "So we can't even get water?" Paul asked. "I'm sorry, not till tomorrow morning," the boy replied. That night they couldn't sleep. They kept tossing and turning around the bed due to hunger. They had enough money to buy food for themselves, yet they didn't see any food to buy. They remained that way until they slept off. In the middle of the night, Vincent heard a knock on the door.
At first, he thought he was dreaming. Then he heard the knock again. He listened to be sure he heard right and not hallucinating. He quickly grabbed his phone to check the time. It was past midnight. He tapped Paul, Savior, and they all jerked up immediately. Then the knock came again. They looked confused and scared at the same time. "Who is it?" Savior asked. "Buy your sweet afang soup," they heard. "Jesus Christ," Vincent shouted. "Buy your sweet afang soup," the voice repeated again. The voice was that of a little girl. They clung to each other immediately. The person kept knocking and the knock kept persisting. They began sweating and shivering at the same time. Sleep left their eyes, and the only thing that was in their eyes was fear. After about 30 minutes knock, the knock stopped. Savior became pressed and needed to use the toilet, but the toilet was outside the room. He was sweating because he was pressed, and he started twisting his legs together on the mattress where he sat. When he couldn't hold it any longer, he voiced out, "Guys, I'm pressed," he whispered. "Hold it till morning. May you not be unfortunate," Vincent whispered. "Please, get up, let's go. I'm also pressed," Paul said. "Are you being serious?" Vincent asked again. "Yes." Paul picked up his flashlight. "Are you sure about this?" he asked to satisfy his curiosity. The person that knocked on the door had long gone her way since. "Get up, let's go," Paul said. "We are going outside together. There's no way I'm staying here alone," Vincent said. Both of them clung to Paul as he opened the door. He flashed the light everywhere and then turned to them. "You see, I told you there's nothing here. Quit shivering like a chicken," he said. "Even women don't act this scared," he added. He said, already acting like a hero in an American movie. They had only taken a few steps forward when he flashed the light on the image of a girl standing with a tray on her head while blood was gushing out of her mouth and nose. "Buy sweet afang soup," she said. They heard again. Paul flung his flashlight into the air. As soon as they saw the image, they struggled to enter the back into the room. They actually wanted to force themselves in at the same time. Despite the fact that the whole place was very dark, they still found their way to the entrance. And the entrance wasn't so wide to allow all of them pass in at the same time. While struggling to enter at the same time, Paul fell to the ground and Vincent and Savior stepped on him, running on top of him so they can get into the room quickly. After applying so much force and energy, they all entered into the very dark room, and Vincent slammed the door shut as soon as they were inside. Then they clung to each other again. "Oh my God, we're finished," Vincent said. "My mom told me to pay for relocation, but I stubbornly refused," Paul added. They were all trembling as they held each other so tight, rubbing their sweat on each other at the same time. Then Vincent felt something climb his leg. He slammed his leg on the floor, all of a sudden holding both of them tightly. "Jesus, Jesus," he shouted. "What is it?" they all asked. "Snake, snake," he screamed. They all ran to a different location of the room, shouting, and while they were standing, they all wrapped themselves together, looking scared. He felt it again and shouted, "Snake, snake," slamming his feet on the ground again, which made them run to a different location. This made Paul lose his balance, that he fell on the ground. While he fell, he started breathing fast. He was an asthmatic patient and the whole scene really got to him. They asked him what it was. He was screaming, my inhaler, it's in my bag." They started searching for the inhaler in the dark like blind people, and after some time they found it and revived him. After a while, he was sound and okay. "Why didn't you tell us you're asthmatic?" Vincent said. "Why? What difference would it have made?" Paul asked. "No difference, but we would have been more careful," Xavier replied. In the morning, they found out that Vincent actually felt Paul's urine and not a snake as he thought. As soon as it was done, they packed their bags and dashed out of the room. They reached the main road and saw a little girl hawking bread on the road. "Hello, fine girl. Please, can you show us the way to the secretariat?" Vincent asked, looking at her. "The secretariat?" she asked, looking at them one after the other. "Yes," they all chorused. "Over there." She just follow the path over there. You will find a cemetery. Follow the path behind it and you will find the secretariat, she said, looking at Paul and admiring him while he was smiling back. "Focus," Vincent said to Paul when he noticed it. "What? There's no harm in flirting," he said. Are you being serious right now? Savior asked. Hope everything is okay, she questioned. Yes, they replied. And they picked up their bags without hesitation and proceeded to the secretariat. As soon as they reached the path of the cemetery, they felt coldness and ghost pain all over their bodies. Paul paused all of a sudden. What kind of a place is this? I don't like the way I'm feeling, he said. Me too, guys. I'm so scared, I swear. I don't think I can pass over this place with you guys, Savior said, looking around. Will you stay behind? Paul questioned. Stay behind where? I can't, Savior said, already clinging to Vincent. Guy, free me. I'm as scared as you are, Vincent replied. After some minutes of arguments, they summoned courage and passed through the place, and they arrived at the secretariat. They met with the state coordinator and started explaining everything to him. And after explaining, they told him they needed a relocation. A relocation? He asked to be sure. Yes, they all chorused. He agreed and asked them to give him some weeks to process it. Some weeks, Savior asked. We can't survive this place a week. Paul said. Exactly my thought, Victor concurred. We might even die before the end of a week, they said rhetorically. There's nothing I can do right now, he said, leaning back into the chair. So you mean we should go back to the couple's lodge? Paul asked. I'm afraid yes, he replied. But for a few days, while I look for a better alternative. I think I've had enough. I'm done with this youth service charade, Paul said. I'm going home. You can't leave immediately, the coordinator said. Why, if I may ask? They are having a festival for 2 weeks, and during that time, no one leaves this village unless he wants to die. During this period, visitors can only come in, but they cannot leave until it's over. We are doomed, Paul said. You will understand soon, he said. But for now, get to your different offices, and when you close, go back to the couple's lodge for today. Tomorrow, you will have a different lodge. But as for the relocation, give me 2 weeks. It can't be done immediately. They looked at each other and nodded. On their way back, while they were passing through the cemetery, they felt the coldness again, and they doubled their spurs. While they were walking, they saw a headless body walking towards them. Immediately they saw this, they threw their luggages and ran for their dear lives. A villager later helped them by bringing their luggages. They stayed indoors a whole day, terrified, waiting to hear from the state coordinator. They hadn't eaten anything since yesterday, but still refused to go outside to get food. They preferred staying inside. After a few hours, they heard a knock on the door. They hurried to open up, thinking it was the state coordinator, only to meet 2 new couples smiling at them. Simon and Prince. They explained everything that had happened to them since they got there, and Simon burst into laughter. What's funny? Vincent asked, rolling his eyes. While Paul sat hugging his bag and looking outside the window, he wasn't even interested in the conversation. He only wanted to leave that place. Is that why you're scared? Is that why you're so scared and you packed all your bag? Simon said in between laughters. Xavier turned and looked at him. Jackie Chan, don't worry. Thank God you're here. You would see what we are talking about very soon. Heaven isn't falling anytime soon, so we are going to be okay, Prince said, looking so confident. But Paul looked at him from head to toe and hissed. Seeing how hungry they were, Simon brought out his stove and opted to cook for everyone. That's so nice of you, they said, but we are not even hungry. Our only fear is how to pass the night in this room today. I'm trembling in fear already, Xavier said. I wish there's something I could take to help me sleep throughout the night, they chorused. Simon, being a medical student, told them, don't worry, I've got you. He added sleeping pills to the food and gave it to all of them. Simon stood outside cooking alone as no one wanted to go outside with him. After eating, they all slept on the bed, snoring so loud. But one person had refused to eat the food, Vincent. So while others were snoring, he just lay there, thinking about his life and everything that is happening here. While he was lying down, he heard a loud bang on the roof, like something just landed on it. Before he could say Jack, he saw a gigantic vulture inside the room. He used wrapper to cover his face. The vulture turned into the small little girl that was selling afang soup, and after some minutes it disappeared. But Vincent had his face covered till morning. He refused to wake up until he was sure everyone was awake. Vincent was thinking of how he was going to explain what he saw to them when Paul picked up the flashlight, and immediately he did, the light went directly on the image dangling from the ceiling. Jesus, he exclaimed, and before he could say Jack, everyone ran as fast as they could outside the room. As soon as they saw it, after running for some distance, they sat on the floor panting. What was that? What image was that? Paul questioned rhetorically, with his flashlight still in his hands. Put off that flashlight, put it off, Xavier yelled. All of a sudden, how I hate this place, Vincent yelled. I just want to go home, Paul said. I'm no longer interested. They can keep the allowance and keep the certificate too, bursting into tears of anguish. Me too. I'm no longer interested, Vincent lamented, almost in tears. Oh God, please save my life. I promise not to ever sin again, Simon said. Then he raised his head up and looked around. Where is Prince? That's true. Where is Prince? Vincent said, turning their heads around to look for him. Don't tell me he was the one hanging there, they said, bursting into tears. Let's go get a certificate so we can leave this town. Which certificate? Paul said. Let me survive first. I can get another certificate. That's true, Simon said. I need to go and get my phone so I can make some calls, Simon said. Which yeye call? Paul asked. Since you entered this place, have you seen any network? That's true. I actually thought my phone was having network issues. So there's no signal here. Yes, Vincent replied. I tried calling my mom severally, all to no avail. There hasn't been a single bar on it ever since we arrived here. How did I even get posted here? How did I find myself here? Xavier cried out. While they were still contemplating, a small bird flew over there, and before their very eyes, it turned into a little girl. They got up and ran as far as their legs could take them. They ran for a very long distance, and it seemed to be no end into the route. Finally, they met an old man on his way to the farm. They were so anxious that they forgot to greet him. Sir, please, can you show us the bus station so we can leave this village immediately? Today? He asked to be sure. Yes, today, they chorused. In Akpabio, during the goddess festival, no one leaves until the festival is over. If you try to leave, you will meet your doom. It's a taboo, he said, popping his eyes. How, sir? They asked. Strangers can come into the town during this festival, but they cannot leave until the festival is over. It lasts for about 2 weeks, the old man explained. Their jaws dropped immediately on hearing this. I don't understand, Vincent said, looking at Paul. You can never make it out here alive, he added. I'm finished, Vincent said with his hands on his head, except through the help of Edidem, the footprint of Edidem. How, sir? They queried, with their eyes glued to him. With the help of Asari, he said. Who is Asari? They asked. Why do you even want to leave the village so badly? He inquired. You're supposed to stay here for 1 whole year, so what is the challenge? We have lost 3 corps members since we got here, Vincent replied, and we have been having strange encounters every night. The old one said. You must have done something to incur the wrath of Economy Fonko, the goddess. Go to Asari, she will help you out. Please, sir, who is Asari? Paul asked with curiosity. The old man sighed heavily. Go to the cemetery and count the 78th grave. That's her grave. She has answers to your questions, he said. Cemetery? Paul explained. Yes, cemetery. Which way to the cemetery, please? Xavier questioned, and then the man pointed towards a direction. They thanked him and then followed each other. They finally arrived there. It was so cold and they were also frightened. Paul held Victor's hands in a tight grip until they counted and arrived at the 78th grave, and her name was boldly written on it. Asari. Yes, that's her grave. See her name written on it. Asari. Asari, Simon said, pointing and shivering his hand on it. She appeared before them, all of a sudden, with her gaze fixed into the air directly, as the breeze blew her hair back and forth, and her gown danced slowly to the sound of the wind. They took to their heels immediately at the sight of her. Stop! She screamed, and they paused. How dare you? You summoned me and then you run away? She yelled at the top of her voice. Vincent tried raising his legs, but couldn't. Come, she ordered, and they turned and stood before her. Vincent had never been so terrified in all his life. He was visibly shaking, and his upper teeth kept slamming against each other. Why did you summon me? The ghost Asari queried.
with her gaze fixed into the air. None of them could utter a word out of fear. They all stood there shivering, while Xavier stood covering his face with his hands. All of a sudden, she turned swiftly to them and looked at Vincent. He didn't even know when he wet himself and turned his face aside, but her eyes were still on him. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Vincent whispered as his heart almost popped out of his chest. If you had wasted 5 more minutes before coming here, you would have been the next to die, she said, staring at him. As soon as Vincent heard that, his eyeball moved to where it was and looked at her expressionless face, but immediately took his eyes off. Simon stood there shivering, with all his fingers stuck in his mouth and his hair standing like one that has been electrocuted. While they were still talking, Paul slept, leaning on Xavier's shoulder. When Xavier couldn't bear the load on himself anymore, he shook his hand and Paul fell on the ground, still sleeping. They turned to look at him, revealing there was a revealing birthmark on his laps. Why do you people summon me? She thundered. Auntie, madam, the thing is, Simon stuttered. Speak now, she raged. Simon looked at Vincent, but he pretended not to hear the question. Then Simon opened his mouth again. Auntie, please, we are corp members. The thing is, we want to go back home. Yes, we no longer want to continue. We've been roaming everywhere until we were finally directed to you. Since we got to this village, we have been experiencing terrible things. We have lost 3 corp members, he said. She cursed it, Asari said. Who, please, they inquired. The female corp that got missing. She brought this plague upon you people. How, please, they inquired. While she entered into the forest to ease herself, she discovered her monthly flow had started, and immediately she entered into the secret river. On a way that it was a taboo for any lady to enter into the river where Economy Funko lives when she is on her period. That was when Economy Funko carried her, and that is why you people have not seen her since then. The goddess was so angry that she swore to deal with all of you, to punish you all for her sins, and she had promised to wipe all of you out of the surface of the earth. Only the footprints of Edidem can help you survive, she said. They turned and looked at themselves, looking more frightened than ever. This revelation shook them to their bone marrow. They didn't see it coming. Economy Funko doesn't forgive strangers, she added, making them feel worse than they were already feeling. I shall lead you to Edidem's footprints, but it's a must that you must stay here for 2 weeks before you leave. As soon as Vincent heard that, he turned to her. A must? He asked, stuttering. Yes, a must. You will not be shown the way out after locating the footprints, but it will shield you from danger. For as long as you stay here, you will become untouchable to the spirits. They will not be able to harm you, even if you get in their way. I really want to go home, Simon said, bursting into tears. Not now, Asari exclaimed. She stepped down from her grave, turning her back to them. Follow me, she said. They all turned and looked at each other, still standing there. Simon followed first, then Xavier. Vincent was about to follow when he remembered Paul was lying on the floor sleeping. He kicked him multiple times and he jerked up immediately, looking around. Let's go, Vincent yelled. Vincent moved and Paul was still lying on the floor, close to the grave. Vincent picked up a stone and hit Paul. That act was what cleared his eyes, and he got up and shouted, Jesus, what am I doing lying close to a grave? Mommy, he screamed, and got up running after Vincent, holding his hands in a very tight grip. They walked for almost an hour in a very thick forest, and finally they arrived somewhere in the middle of the forest. Look, that is the footprint of Edidem. Look at it. He left himself for strangers who are in distress, for strangers who needed protection from the marine spirit, so it will show them whenever they are in distress, Asari explained. They looked in the direction which she pointed, and they saw a very wide space on the ground. Go there and put each of yourselves
of each of your feet inside the space. But after you have done that, wherever you go here in Akpabio, make sure you return to your houses before 7 p.m. And do not tell this to anyone, she added. But please, ma, who is Edidem? Vincent asked. She turned and looked at him. Edidem created Akpabio land himself years ago, but the goddess had a very evil mind, so because of her, he relocated and went to where he came from many years ago and left his footprint here for anyone who needed his help. And what of you? Paul finally voiced out. I am sorry, she said, looking around. I was Edidem's great-grandchild. They turned and looked at each other after they heard that. Then, one after the other, they started putting their feet into the footprint. She led them back into the town and asked them to return home. I can't go back to that same lodge. I'm just tired of the whole thing that is happening there. For real? Savior said. Go back to that same lodge. Somebody is already waiting for you, she said, and turned back and started to walk away. All of a sudden, they heard a loud scream. I'm sorry! It was so loud that they took to their heels. They got to the lodge and met all the luggage outside with the state coordinator standing by them. Where have you guys been? He questioned as soon as he saw them. I'm so sorry about what happened to your friend. I have gotten a more comfortable place for you, he added. They picked up their bag one after the other and followed him. But Paul, on sighting a pathway along the road, paused. Look, that's the route out of here, he said. We had come in through that route, he said. No, please, that isn't the route, the state coordinator said. I know what I'm saying, he replied. I'm out of here. God forbid I pass another night here. Paul said and left. Vincent almost followed him, but he advised himself against it. The state coordinator took them to another house to stay. The first and the second night, they slept peacefully. But Vincent started to regret why he did not follow Paul. The state coordinator's wife has been bringing food to them, but on this day, they decided to go to restaurants to get food. They were served with big chunks of meat. Vincent was about to take a bite when he saw the same birthmark that was on Paul's leg on the chunk of meat. Vincent's eyes popped open all of a sudden. He didn't know how best to react to what he had just seen without calling people's attention. Goosebumps filled his entire body and he started to shiver. Simon noticed his strange behavior and asked him what was going on. Xavier was about taking another scoop into his mouth when he paused all of a sudden and looked at Vincent. Are you sure you're okay? Let's leave immediately, he said. Leave? Leave where? Simon asked. There's no way I'm leaving these large pieces of meat unattended to. Me too. Oh, Paul concurred. You can leave. When we are done, we will join you. Immediately he started coughing uncontrollably and coughed till his friends were scared that they took him out. When they got to the lodge, he seemed fine to them. What was that about? Xavier asked. You know the birthmark Paul had on his laps? Yes. What happened to it? Xavier inquired. I saw the same birthmark on my piece of meat. You don't say, Simon replied. You're joking, right? Xavier said. How can I joke about something this serious? They began to dip their middle finger into their throat, but nothing came out. Then Xavier rushed into the bathroom and got his toothbrush and started brushing, while Simon pulled out a cigarette from his bag and started smoking. Cigarette, please help me forget all of this. I know you will. Please help me. How can this even be possible? Lord, please. Let this not be true, he said, rubbing his head. I mean, who does that? Kill a whole human being and use his flesh to cook? Does that mean that Paul is no more? Xavier questioned rhetorically. As three of them cried their eyes out. A week later, the state coordinator sent for them. On their way back, they saw the beautiful young lady, the one Xavier had a crush on, selling bread on the road. He was her regular customer. Simon and Vincent warned him severally about this particular girl, but he refused to heed to their warnings. He would always go there and sit by the road with her, doing God knows what. He was caught making out with her one day in her room by the lady's father. As soon as the news reached Vincent and Simon, they hurried to go and beg on his behalf, but the girl's father was bent on dealing with him. Xavier was tied down like a common criminal. He had cried out his eyes. His eyes were already red and swollen. In this village, you have the nerve to do this with my daughter, the father thundered. They even sent a message to the state coordinator, but he refused to show up. When he got tired of their plea, he chased them both away. Please don't leave me, Savior begged, but there was nothing he could do. Vincent busted into tears and wanted to go and stay with him back, but the man chased him with a plank. Let's leave here, please, said Simon. They got to the lodge and sat down on the floor, crying and waiting for Savior to come back. Later in the evening, he heard a knock on the door and rushed to it. Savior, I knew you would return, Vincent said, rubbing the door. He saw a headless human with blood dropping from his head down, trying to find his way into the room. Jesus! Vincent screamed so loud that it was the last thing he remembered. He was later told by Simon that he had passed out, and that as soon as he heard the scream, he rushed to the door, where he saw the headless body still trying to find his way into the house. Simon slammed the door against it, and Simon revived Victor. As soon as Victor woke up, he started screaming again, shouting, acting like a mad person, and Simon had to grab him. I want to go home. I'm tired of all of this. I want to go home. Please leave me. I want to return to my family before I die here, Vincent said in between sobs. Vincent, calm down. This is too much. God, please wake me up from this nightmare, Vincent continued. Calm down. He tried to calm him down. There was the knock on the door. Did you enjoy the story? If you enjoyed the story, please comment. Watch out for part 2.